When I designed my new bathroom, I was determined that it would be a wet room and as open as possible. So I was thrilled with this shower, and I insisted that there was no lip. The tilers and builder tried to talk me out of it, but I wouldn't have it. And I said, no, the water would flow over here. The whole floor has been sealed and therefore it was perfectly fine. I'm here to tell you that it was a disaster. And if anyone is thinking of doing this, please don't. Think of other options. So now I'm having to work out how to get around it. So I've already tried one thing, which I'll show. This is something I bought from Bunnings and thought it would work. And yes, it did after a fashion, but as I wanted to avoid trip hazards in the first place, I siliconed it like this. But I realised this is a complete and utter disaster. It's going to be nothing but dangerous, and at some point someone will have an accident. So I've been looking online for lots of other solutions. So this strip was a piece of gutter strip from Bunnings, which was very cheap. But when you look at it, it's great to keep the water in when I siliconed it properly the second time, because that's, I think, 20 millimetres high and that's 30 wide. So that wasn't the problem. The water stayed in, but it's such a terribly dangerous trip hazard. You can see there, someone at some point is going to go over the top. So I've spent this morning getting it up with a scraper and going to put something else down, which I think will suffice. I'm going to use, this is called aluminium gutter mould. You can see all the measurements on here. Comes from Bunnings and is cheap as chips. So if I lay it on here, you can see the sort of shape of it. Now there are many products that exist, but most of them are in America and cost a fortune when you try to bring them over here. I'm talking about ending up with postage nearly $200 Australian, which is crazy. So I figured, as most of them, some are taller, some are higher, up to 50 millimetres. This is only going to be 10, which I wish it was a bit deeper, but this would be a hazard, a trip hazard to a degree, but at least the edge is around, and I don't think it's going to be too bad. So how I propose to do it is, and I'm no handy woman, I'm just going to do my best, is absolutely fill that to the brim, there, right the way along with clear silicone. Then I'll turn it over, I'll press it into place, and then when it's finished, I will also silicone. I've got a lovely deep edge there to silicone into as well, so it will really be waterproof. So not terribly deep, so it's not allowing you to go crazy, but I think this should work, and you could still get wheelchairs over the top if you need to. Okay, preparation is not my strong point. I find it all so tedious and just want to get on with it. But I have bothered to put a tiny bit of tape on the rounded edge, which is going to go inside the shower. Only just because, well, I might end up with all, knowing the way I work, I'll end up with this stuff all over the place, this silicone, this clear silicone. And this, by the way, is what it is there. And this is isopropyl alcohol. I think you use this when you get mess anywhere, I think, to get it off. Okay, so exciting part is I'm going to charge up and fill this whacking full of heaps full of this stuff. And then I'll put a different nozzle on, this one, which is quite narrow at the end, to go down the edge when it's actually in situ against the water side. Fingers crossed. And one last thing, I believe that this here has now got residue of silicone, which I've scraped off fairly well, and it feels sort of a bit tacky, which is probably okay. I think it will still adhere. But if you were doing this virgin, then what you'd need to do is make sure you get all the grease off with meths or something, or again, isopropyl alcohol, and make sure it's really dry, no grease, no anything horrible, so it will make a good stick. I have made such a mess. It's gone everywhere, all over me. It looks dreadful, but hey, hopefully we're not going to see it. And it's rammed So it'll need a long time to dry, but I want it to be filling up all the gaps, so it will sort of almost have a bit of give in it, I think, if a wheelchair goes over it, because it'll be spongy. I don't know, I'm hoping. Let's quickly put a strip of this stuff down because I think it's going to go everywhere and be a mess. Pulled up the strip. It was definitely the right thing to have that down, and I think it's in position. It was also really good to have this on, and I'm going to leave that until it's totally dry. I think I'm going to try and fill in on the other side, because if I, oh no, maybe not. Oh, I don't know, then I'd have to take this off. I just want to get it done, I'm so impatient. I might take it off, I think. Okay, seems in pretty good position. Oh, this stuff is really good to keep your hands clean. You have to make them dry and not touch the silicone, but otherwise your hands are disgusting. It's Happy Days. Look, it's not the best job. I'm sure that if you had a professional, they'd do a much better job, but this hasn't cost me anything really to speak of. It saved me 200 Australian dollars to import the right thing from America. I don't know why we can't get them here. It seems ridiculous. They're only bits of foam and rubber after all. I can clean the rest of this up with a blade, and I'm going to give this a long time to dry because that's a lot of silicone. It's basically filled in the whole thing. And we'll see what it looks like and if it works in a couple of days. Well, I thought I'd now post the finished product. I finished it Sunday afternoon and left it until Tuesday morning before using the shower. It worked 100% perfectly. No leaks whatsoever. Very little water splashed outside. I just had towels out here and they caught that, but there were definitely no leaks. And the drainage was fine. It didn't overflow in any way or even come close, even though this is only 10 millimeters in height. You don't need much. Really pleased with that. $8 for that little piece of aluminium. A bit of work on my part. Done twice because I did the wrong thing first time, but yeah, highly recommend.